Shit. Here we are. Why don't we all introduce ourselves? I think Richard, you and I could probably agree that Caleb's the most the best, just the best of us.
Yeah, he's the best. He's
What?
he comes from a moral high ground we can't
Oh
compare.
yes, my esteemed moral high ground.
Yeah,
He
All
knows
right,
his
how do you want this to
history.
work? Yeah, well, that is true.
Well, just tell me, Caleb. Just give us a little introduction to yourself. What you've done, what you're doing. What you like, that kind of stuff.
Sure, my name is Caleb Ruby. My background is in theology and history education, of all things. Um, Obviously, I grew up reading. My father basically taught us how to read, my brother and I, on Chronicles of Narnia. So um, I've been a huge fantasy and sci-fi fan for basically my entire life.
Hell yeah! Did you say theology and history major?
That's what I majored in college, but I dropped out to work with you in the warehouse. We'll say that. That's
nothing
a
beats
good
being a
cover
forklift.
story.
It's because nothing matters.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, also
Damn, we're getting deep already.
private Christian universities are very expensive. So
Oh yeah, yeah. All right,
I mean,
Richard.
I mean, when Richard Janice, I work in a warehouse. I mean, I've gotten just I've read books like my entire life up to this point. I recently got into, I guess, the thick fantasy books, other than like the young adults, and I've just been delving deep. Yeah, just like that book. I've been delving through them, and it turns out that I love them a lot, and that I can't put them down. So that's where I'm at today, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. They're pretty amazing. It's weird. I every time I think about it, because I remember getting like addicted to video games. When I was younger, it would like happen like once a year. I'd get addicted to video games, and wouldn't be able to stop playing or thinking about the game. And I never thought that would happen with books. It happened for me with like Harry Potter series, and then there was like quite a bit of time, and I've always read stuff, but like there's quite a bit of time, and then I started the Mistborn series, which was kind of like one of my really big leaps into fantasy. I've read the first the first trilogy of Mistborn. Really loved it. I've read it twice. Have you guys? I think you guys have both done the first one, Final Empire.
Yeah, tried it. I see. I read Stormlight before I read Mistborn,
Oh, uh
so that I that kind of like I loved his writing style in that. And then when I moved over to Mistborn, it was not up to the same polish. So,
yeah.
but I probably just screwed myself over in that situation.
my introduction to Brandon Sanderson was his finishing of The Wheel of Time, and then I read Mistborn, and then I came to the Stormlight Archive. So
Did it come out like while you were into the Wheel of Time, or did you come to Wheel of Time later? Like, was
no,
he
they were coming out.
releasing?
Yeah.
They were. What was that like for you to be to like learn that Brandon Sanderson was the books were going to be finished,
Well,
and
I'm
you were
pretty
going to get to
sure.
read them.
I think Robert Jordan passed away in 2006, and that was like right when we were discovering the Wheel of Time. So,
Okay.
um, as my brother and I, and we kind of did everything together. And so by the time by the time we were started reading them, it was Brandon Sanderson was finishing them. So
Can you imagine, Richard? Like those coming out like I
Yeah. The only thing I can imagine it being like I don't know. I'm so young that I haven't had anything like for me, the book like that was coming out at the time was like Percy Jackson and coming along. And you're like, you get the whole Percy Jackson series released and you're like, oh, it's done with those 7 books. You don't think you think those characters are done for. then he's like, well, we're gonna add the Roman pantheon too. And it's like just like absolute surprised, and you're like so hyped for the next books to come out, but you're like worried because it's your beloved characters, and you don't know exactly if he's gonna like change from what your beloved characters are as they come back. But I mean, in that situation, it was amazing. And I'd argue in the Wheel of Time, it's this like same degree of when you get that feeling of like, okay, I get the same characters, different writer. I'm hoping that it's amazing. And I think Brandon Sanderson did it justice. Like in total.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was a super satisfying ending. The Gathering Storm, when you have Darth Rand or whatever the fuck Reddit people call him, that's like one of my favorite Wheel of Time books. Like I love that shit. Anyway, I don't want to get too into Wheel of Time, but like, yeah, he nailed it.
But you can tell that's like he builds a lot of like especially with Stormlight. As we get into that, he takes a lot from the Wheel of Time series. I feel like the influences of it on his own writing. I don't know. I personally don't know what came out, like if he was already sort of working on this area of his novels and then he started working with Stormlight, or like with the Wheel of Time too at the same time. I don't know what his time period was, but I feel like he definitely utilized his experience to build a Stormlight universe.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
that's certainly true. Yeah.
Way of Kings, I think, came out in like 2011. I don't know, 2010, 2011. Caleb, do you know when the Wheel of Time, those last three were coming out?
When he picked up the Wheel of Time, he had only published Elantris and Mistborn.
Oh shit.
So, and I think Harriet had only read Mistborn. So she literally just read Mistborn, was like, yeah, this is the guy that I want to
crazy
finish it.
Yeah. I mean,
which I mean, to be fair, the twists in that book is insane.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great mesh of like all these different things. This, gentleman thief who's like tricking all of his other thief friends into like one last score, but really wants to kill the Dark Lord. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
Amazing.
I guess we should probably say we are spoiling literally everything Brandon Sanderson has ever wrote ever.
Spoilers! Cosmere!
Oh
yeah. Oops.
Whoopsies. I'll tag it. I'll flag it. All right. Yeah, just
this
to be
disclaimer
clear,
should be at the front of the video.
But
we're going to put it at the end.
We just spoiled everything. All right, guys. We are, from here on out, spoilers, Cosmere. I'm going to flag it in the description and stuff, but mostly from now on, we're going to do spoilers. The entire 4 Stormlight books. We have not read the novellas. No. You guys haven't, right? I'm pretty sure.
Nope.
Yeah. Fuck the novellas. I'm kidding. I haven't read them, but we have read these 4 Stormlight books, and Stormlight 5 comes out December 6th. I've got it on pre-order. You guys got your orders? Got your orders in?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if my local shop is that technologically advanced. I'm pretty sure it doesn't have an operating system, so I'll have to see.
I've got it on Audible already. The credit's spent, so I'm just waiting.
Oh shit! Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm gonna. So I'll be buying Caleb a copy of Stormlight 5 tomorrow. Yeah, so let's get into it. I've got 13 questions here to kind of guide us through this, to keep us on track. We're going to rotate who answers the question first. Keep it as loose as possible and just go through them, man. And yeah, we're here to love Stormlight and of course talk a little bit of shit, but where all of the shit talk comes from a place of love. I've talked to these guys, we work together, and usually the thing that keeps me from doing my job most is us talking about Stormlight, Wheel of Time, fantasy in general. So yeah, I'm excited. So I'll go ahead and start it off. The first question is this starts with Caleb. So Caleb, in the Stormlight archive, the four books, what are your favorite books in order? Favorite to least favorite, and why?
Yeah, it might be recentism bias, but I think Rhythm of War is my favorite. It's certainly the one that gave me the most emotional um, impact with its endings or its climaxes, shall we say. And then after that, you probably get Way of Kings as the original. And then I would have to say Words of Radiance and then Oathbringer. Not because Oathbringer is bad, but because the first third of it I had just such a hard time getting through. It's a it was very slow for me. It felt like all of the characters were sitting there spinning their wheels. That said, again, the climax of that book was so fantastic. I'm sure we'll talk about it later. But easily could have brought the book up a lot higher, honestly. But I unfortunately read Words of Radiance and Way of Kings basically as one giant book. I just read them through both back to back, and
Yeah.
so they kind of blend together a bit for me, unfortunately. So it is what it is.
So that was four, right? And
4,
then
1, 2, 3.
okay, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, Richard.
See, so I think Words of Radiance is my favorite, just because I mean you get to see arguably Kaladin finally become what you hope to start seeing out of him. Like the first hints of it are in that he can actually get through his depression in a way. Like I mean, so it goes 2, 1, and then 3, and then 4. I Rhythm of War just didn't. I didn't like that one as much. And then again, as Caleb said, for number 3, it's just the beginning of it is a slog. It is just you're back to Kaladin being him and Shallan being her. So like so it's just it's slow, but then again at the end of Oathbringer, it's just amazing. It's say what you will about Sam at the end of each book, he really leaves you wanting to read the next one with
Yeah.
But
the
yeah,
Sanderlanche. I think for me, it's probably 3. That's hard. It's a hard between 3 and 1. It's hard for me, but it goes 3, 1, 2, 4. The reason 3 is my favorite is because Dalinar is my favorite character, and you get to see him. I just love the way his character progresses and the way that Sanderson held off with explaining him until this book, until Oathbringer. And you kind of, Caleb, we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, where you get this, you get this parallel thing going on with Dalinar, going back through this and then realizing, hearing his mom's, or not mom, his wife's name, and all of that, his memories coming back to him as the Stormfather heals his mind or whatever the fuck. And then Kaladin is also going through this this thing with compassion for nobility and for the other side, the enemy. And it just the Kaladin stuff is boring to me in Oathbringer. Yeah, it that whole but the message, it's very deep, the way that he communicates what's going on with Kaladin. So I really appreciate the Kaladin stuff, even though I'm bored in book 3. But yeah, and then Rhythm of War is my least favorite because it's just for me that one is the slog. Uh you have a lot of Shalon and Adolin together in Rhythm of War, and I just need Sanderson to rip them apart. That's probably put them in different places and have them pine for each other, but just as long as they're not talking. Yeah, so but I love Rhythm of War. Anyway.
See, I feel like my so I didn't really explain why Rhythm of War was my lowest one,
Yeah.
and I just don't like seeing the cool magic systems actually get explained.
Oh shit, yeah.
It just takes away the
Oh,
magic of it to me. Like I understand that most magic systems have science behind it, but at the same time, I I like to feel the fantasy. I like to feel the extra, and it's just Navani actually figuring out how the entire magic system works. It feels, and you're just like, oh, that's okay. Well, now we know
Midi-
that's gonna
Midichlorians.
yeah. It's like I I
well,
know
I'm
it.
sure we'll talk about it later, but yeah, that's actually one of the things that I like most about the magic system is that Brandon Sanderson has created the rules so strictly that you can use it as science, and that's
Yeah.
how all the fabrials work. It just essentially replaces chemistry and all of the things that we have in our world, metallurgy and all of these things with now we just use our magic to do it. It's fun. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely harder than I'm giving credit for because I could never. I feel like he's taking the hard route with
True.
it, which is like I, a lot of authors don't when they just have magic. It doesn't feel like it's explainable. And Sanders like, no, it's explainable. Everything I've put in the books, it's there, and then I'll explain it to you.
Yeah. I'm gonna explain it.
You can always count.
Great details through the character's experimentation. You're gonna feel it.
Storms. It didn't work. Well, maybe if she tried this. Well, not for 3 times, but then it's gonna work. She'll figure it out.
I
Yeah,
just
I am like it's both ways. Yeah, for me, I totally feel that because it's really cool to have like like in D&D and stuff. I like you guys both play D&D. Like
Yes.
they have specific rules for magic. You have to have certain things right to cast fireball. Is that right?
yeah, there's
Or
components to it, and like technically, it would be like you technically have to have your pieces of your mathematical formula in order to cast your spell, but there's also like scrolls and stuff like that that's written down and uses otherworldly magic to cheat the means. I feel like.
Well, or you
I
have
mean,
to have a wand or an orb to aid your spell casting. There is some vehicle through which your spell is being cast.
yes.
But Sanderson takes that idea to an extreme level
yeah,
where he really tries to put very strict barriers around his magic systems. And of course you don't need to hear us talk about it. He has plenty of things online where he discusses exactly why he does what he does. But
right, right. No, I'm also though with it with the magic thing. I lean more towards being swept away by a soft magic system. Something that I don't understand when it gets explained. It is the midichlorian thing for me, where oh it's just the force, yeah, and if you put enough shit around it that's like to build the mystery, then I'm like totally in and I believe in it. If it's just like, well, I can just do this all, whatever. If it's too much, then it takes away from it. But yeah, like Sanderson talks about this with Gandalf in his videos. He's like, all right, soft magic. What can Gandalf do? They're all like, they don't know.
right.
And but yeah, I tend to like that. It tends to increase my sense of wonder. But it definitely builds the tension to know that if this character doesn't have Stormlight, then he's fucked. He's not going to heal all those things. So All right, let's move on to the next one. This one starts with you, Richard. Favorite three characters and why?
Hmm. So I've been thinking about it, and I think I'm gonna put Adolin. He's my favorite character,
Okay.
just because I love seeing the dynamic of him and Dalinar and his brother, just a family dynamic that has obviously has troubles, but they have enough trust and they can really work together. I don't know. I really enjoy seeing that part in the books and how well it's articulated. It's a positive male relationship, and that's not often portrayed in books. I feel like where the son can actually talk to his father. It's always like, I mean, besides Wheel of Time, but like there's a lot of instances where it's like they don't talk, or his father is the reason he has all of his problems, and that's not
Yeah.
the case.
Yeah.
Dad trauma.
Yeah, and that's just not the case with them. And to follow it up, Dalinar is my second favorite, just because you get to see a positive father figure in a way, but you also see that he was not at one point, and he has had to better himself significantly. And then I feel like Yasna is my third favorite, just because I really enjoy how analytical she is in the sense of always she always feels like whenever you catch up with her character that she is the step ahead. She knows what the plans are, and that's just always intriguing. Every time I see her, I'm like, okay, something cool's about to happen. Yasna's in the chapter.
Yeah.
It like, but I think those are my three favorite. That's a hard question. He has so many good characters that are thoroughly written.
You
Yeah.
forgot the part with Yasna where she shows up and they have the plans and then she shits on them.
Yeah, yeah. No, she's like, you idiots.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay, so I'm up next. Favorite three characters. Okay. Dalinar, I've already gone into that. um, just love his journey. I also love that he's this positive male role model, father figure that wasn't always that way. Because if he had always been awesome, then he wouldn't be my favorite.
Yeah.
Which, that's a whole rabbit hole in itself of why I need a bad pass. But anyway, then it's Taravangian. Um, just he's just an awesome fucking villain. He's so good. I always think Sanderson relates to Taravangian, like where he wrote this big plot for the Stormlight archive, and then and that's when he was Taravangian when he was on God tier, that one day, and then he's constantly like going and being like, all right, well, this piece of what's it called, the pattern? It's not the pattern, is it?
It's diagram, isn't it?
Yeah,
diagram,
the
yes.
diagram. Yeah, he's always going, and that's just such a cool idea that they're like bleeding the people at the end of Way of Kings, and like it's fucking metal.
Killing them to get their their little prophecy.
And this whole
Yeah.
time,
They're
you're
like
just
one
like,
sentence of prophecy.
what's this? Why are people dying? Like,
Well, and that reveal is like, holy, because you think he's just
Yeah.
this nice old dude.
Oh,
Oh,
dude.
wait. And then it's like, oh no, this guy's
Yes.
a genius.
Yes. And I'm not sure if that happens before or after Dalinar goes in and beats the shit out of Elhokar. I'm not sure which.
I think that's in book 1 that we get that reveal.
Well, both of those things happen in book 1, but I don't know if Dalinar beats the shit out of Elhokar before we find out about Taravangian or after. But if it's after, yeah. See, yeah, if I wanted, I could kick your fucking ass. See, if I want to be kicked. But yeah, so those two, and then Teft, and Teft, Teft because of the way Teft dies, which is being like a recovering drug addict, and like he's like has the thought before he dies with his friend, where he's like, he's like, well, what if I do use the fire moss again or whatever? And he's like, then it'll be fine, and I'll just do this again, and I'll get better again, and I'll one day at a time thing, and then he fucking dies. I'm like that. Oh my god, that was he became my favorite character in book 4. There's a lot of, like you were saying, Caleb. There's a lot of moments in this one that are like,
It's a really emotional payoff.
yeah,
And just terrifying for book 5. I'm gonna
yeah.
have to feel things. Oh
Oh.
no.
All right, it's on to what, Caleb? Yeah, favorite 3
Yeah.
characters and why?
My favorite character is Kaladin.
Okay.
Just because he's the character you latch onto in book 1. He's obviously our background character in book 1. We get the most of his background. And so in some ways he was kind of the main character for me, if you will, of the entire series. And so that's why I think book 1 and book 4 were the most impactful, because those are the points where he has the most growth as a character. My second favorite is Adolin. And I think it's because he's this interesting duality of a character where he's this sort of court friendly, fashion obsessed fop in a way. And simultaneously, he's this insanely deadly warrior. Usually, you don't see that in a depiction of a noble. You would see one or the other, and he gets to be both, and still has this very interesting set of character flaws and traits. And the way he contrasts and differs from his father, whilst also trying to live up to the ideal of his father, is such an interesting and complex relationship. And I think it easily catapults him into um, that character, into that second slot. Not to mention his relationship with his sword being now personified through Maya. And then I think my third favorite character, I thought a lot about it. There's a lot of characters that could go in 3. I think it's probably Navani. Um,
Okay.
just because she's this interesting take. Very often, when you have an important woman in a story, she's young. She's Shallan's age. She's not, an older, mature woman, and that's just not an archetype that's often explored. Um, or if they are explored, it's kind of like an old man. He's kind of there, and then we kind of shuffle him off. Sometimes a woman will play the Gandalf figure in a way, um, like in Wheel of Time, where oh yeah, it's time to get rid of this character and let the young people do it on their own. But to have Dalinar and Navani stick around, I think is a really interesting look. Especially, they're not just iconic characters that are like settled; they're still going through their own growth and their own character arcs, and that itself is really exciting and cool to see.
Well, yeah, and you made me think of how we were shitting on the science in Rhythm of War just a little bit ago, um, which I totally was bored a lot of those parts. But it's another one of those things, like in Oathbringer with Kaladin's arc, where he's getting this compassion for the other. Like in Rhythm of War, it starts off in the prologue where the king Gavilar is like just shitting on Navani and saying how she's not a scholar, all these things. Very, very belittling, and it's awful. So you get that sympathy for her. And then as she goes through the book and she discovers all these things about the world and the science, and she made a fucking airship, like, or helped, and like, but then she realizes herself that she is a scholar as well.
Yeah.
And so like it's really cool. That was a really good point about her, about having these older characters sticking around in a fantasy series, and how that's kind of a fresh take. I didn't even think about that.
Well, and it gives me hope for 6 through 10, that we're not just going to, okay, we've had our young characters and now it's time to kind of just shuffle them off to the side and bring in our new cast of characters, our new young kids. It's going to be interesting to see them kind of, take the Dalinar and the Navani roles for a new set of youngsters that have to go save the world, shall we say. that might be
It
an interesting thing to
Dalinar
see.
better not die because it sounded a lot like you were saying Dalinar's about to die. Caleb.
Well, we do know one fan favorite character is going to die in book 5. Brandon Sanderson has warned us.
Yeah,
Is this
which
true?
fan? I
That's
hope
what
it's
I've heard.
Moash. I hope it's Moash.
Well, is
He's
Moash
not a
fan
favorite.
Hey man, the amount of redemption theories, he's got to be somebody's favorite. Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
Solid.
My assumption is The Rock is going to die, but find out.
Dude, Dwayne Johnson.
Everyone's
No,
just
Yeah.
assuming it. Well,
Dwayne
everyone's just
Johnson
assuming it's
died
Kaladin, you know.
December 6th.
But
The pre-release of The Rock's death. Pre-order.
No.
All right, favorite single character moment, and this starts with John. Oh shit. Okay. I think that like there are 3 that war in my mind, so I'm just gonna list them off really quick. I think my favorite though is book 3, Oathbringer, when Dalinar's going, it's a flashback, he's going to get the shard blade. I think this is when he gets Oathbringer. And there's a guy up there like on this thing, and he's like, yeah, and he's in like, he's in his plate, and Dalinar's like, fuck you, I'm gonna kill you, and I just have the plate, and I'm gonna get your blade. I think that's what it was that he was getting. Either way, there's this guy on a ledge, and he goes and he kills him, and he gets shard plate or blade, one of the two. Super cool. I can like picture it all. Then there's the Kaladin he jumps into the pit in Words of Radiance to save Adolin, and yeah, that's it. But mainly that one in Oathbringer. Do you guys know which thing he was getting?
Yeah, he killed the one of the other kings because he let his son go. Remember? And his son came back because he got his blade from what's his name? It was his son was the reason why he had to burn his wife. It was the father of the town where Dalinar's first wife died. Like he was the it was that
Okay.
It was the king of the rift. He killed him, or not the king, the prince. I don't know exactly what it is, but
maybe a high prince. Yeah.
But yeah.
But he wasn't getting his plate or his blade there though. When he killed that guy.
I think he got the blade. If I had, because I don't know. It's been a long time.
Well, and then he gets shot at, I think, during that, and the guy almost hits him, and then he's like, all right, you at the end, he's like, you are now joining me. And that guy becomes the Ardent that's always telling Dalinar he can't marry Navani. A lot of cool things in a row. Okay, who's next for this one? Caleb, favorite single character moment.
Well, I'll steal one that I assumed you were going to take it. It's the moment at the end of Oathbringer between Dalinar and the Thrill. That was such an amazing climax to all of the journey that Dalinar had been on throughout that entire book. Recovering the memories of the memories he wanted to lose, getting all those back, and his personal journey. It'd be easy to say his moment with Odium when he kind of rejects being Odium's champion. He doesn't let Odium manipulate him would be the climax. But I think the climax of that whole arc is Dalinar embracing the Thrill and saying, no, I'm not going to blame you for the things that I've done. I'm going to thank you for what you allowed me to do and becoming who I am.
Shit.
And that really, because it's not only an acceptance of the Thrill, it's an acceptance of who he was. He accepted the Blackthorn. He's like, yeah, I was that person and I needed to be that person to be who I am today. And I think it's such a beautiful character moment. And it's just one of the things that'll probably always stick with me about this series.
I fucking forgot about that. He like accepted it and was like, "Look what you did for me, even though you were a shitty thing. Like you're also a good thing."
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Fuck, Richard.
I mean, mine is it's like when Dalinar screams, "You cannot have my pain."
Ooh, yeah.
And that's just because like my history of substance abuse. I love it, and that and like with me that correlates with no, that is I can't escape from it. I have it is mine. I deserve to feel it. It's
Yeah.
not something to throw away. That only it doesn't better you. It doesn't work for you. And that was just something like when that happened, that like made a realization with myself, and I'm like, so that just made me even love that scene even more. Other than always already being an amazing scene in the book. But
Which book is that in?
oh, that's I think it's isn't it Oathbreaker?
It might be
Because it
because I
or
think that's his
Oathbringer,
line
sorry.
that he says to Odium, right?
Yeah,
Because Odium's like, "No, I made you feel all these things. Give
I can
in and
take it
be shitty.
away.
You're a shitty person. Ha!"
He tried
He's
to
like,
be
"No, I'm
think
not.
he tried to
I've
Moash
overcome
me.
what I
I
was
know.
before."
I know. That's the thing is that like Odium is cool and mysterious to me in like at the beginning of the series, but then as it goes on, it's like it doesn't fucking matter. Like he even when he sounds like a mustache twirling villain.
Aw.
Yeah. Oh, it was my. I'll take it your pain away. Like like it doesn't matter because like the character moments are so big and like they have so much depth to them that I don't even believe that Brandon Sanderson is writing them, which is like shitty of me. You know, like what, like when you just said that, Caleb, I was like, "What is this book he's talking about?" You know, with such depth. But he's good, man. These are really well written characters, you know, and sometimes I forget that. All right. Oh, here we go. Least favorite character and why? Starting with you, Caleb.
Yes, I get to go first. Moash is mine. You
Oh
can't take him
shit.
from me. I hate him more than you. Uh, I mean, I thought a long time about this question because I didn't know if you could count because of how much, he's such a I love to hate him, you know.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Moash, and I'll talk a little bit more about because I could see the future. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next question. But Moash is definitely my least favorite character. Um,
Okay.
just from a pure and it's a testament. It's not a least favorite character because, I wish he wasn't in the books. It's a least favorite character because Brandon Sanderson has done so well making me hate this guy.
Yeah.
So,
Killed Teft. So yeah.
well, I
I'm
hated him
with you.
for Elokar. That's where I really started.
Oh, dude, don't even. Oh.
That Elokar was about to have his redemption, and you took that from him.
Yeah.
Alucard
Oh,
doesn't get his
dude.
redemption arc. He does
Yeah.
not deserve a redemption arc.
He's gonna do the same thing with Moash, but he's about to have a redemption arc.
Yeah, you took that question away about Moash's redemption arc, you coward.
Oh shit! Damn it! All right, Richard, least favorite.
So I'm gonna say Shalon, and that's just because I don't I respect his like writing to the bet like to use her bipolar disease.
DID.
Yeah. Like I respect his ability to write to it and stick to make as realistic as possible. I just don't like reading about it. It's just I don't know. Her character, it's not something that bugs me to a point where I can't read her chapters, but it it's weird. I don't know. I don't know. I can't put it into words really of why it bugs me so much, but she just doesn't have it doesn't feel good to read. I don't know. I'll have to think about it more, I guess. But so John, you go ahead. I'll
Yeah. I share a least favorite character with you, Richard. We have a lot of good times talking shit about Shallan. Yeah, she's so like they're all this stuff. I have a similar relationship with Shallan's dissociative identity disorder that I do to Kaladin's arc, like I said in Oathbringer, where it's like it works in my brain after I read it. And I'm like, I respect it. And like I'm like, yes, please, thank you. It like marinates well, you know. But with Shallan's so it's the same thing with her struggle with mental illness and the different personalities where I'm not always compelled by it. But I am like when she overcomes it and has those moments in Rhythm of War, there's a moment where um, she overcomes it. I think
When
in
she incorporates
Shadesmar.
Veil. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And that's a cool moment where she like thanks Vale, right? For
Yeah.
it's
It's
similar to
very
the
similar to Dalinar's arc with
yeah,
Thrill in a way. Yeah.
yeah, and that's really fucking cool, and that's really like human deep shit, and so I really appreciate that. But what I don't appreciate about Shallan is two things, and that is her dialogue with Adolin, which makes me want to fucking puke. And so there's that, and then there is the mystery plots. Okay, maybe now that
Oh
Vale's
yeah.
incorporate, but it's like I'm reading an epic fantasy book with multiple POVs, and I'm like, okay, this one makes sense. This one makes sense. I see why this journey's happening, and then I'm like, what's this fucking mystery plot? And like, and then she's like, well, I have to find out about my brother and Kelsey, not Kelsey, the Ghostblood guy is going to tell me Sidecar if I keep anyway, I just like don't give a shit about it ever. And
Well,
it's
and
just frustrating.
yeah, and I'll partially agree with you because in Oathbringer, the first third of that book that I said was so slow, she's
Yeah.
the only one making any progress. And it's with a mystery to do with the city that turns out really important, but it's not clearly communicated exactly this I never felt the stakes. It just felt like we weren't making any progress anywhere we were going. And it's like a third to a half of the book that just feels like, oh, come on, can we get to something happening? In a way. So
So, so I the thing I think that bugs me the most is like the way she's written. It feels like you guys are saying, it feels like a young adult mystery book whenever you get to her chapters.
Yeah, that's a good description.
And then we get back to like, then we have like go back to Dalinar, and it's this deep moral, like, I'll even add Navani in it, like their whole situation. Like, I feel like it makes her and Adolin's chapters especially look bad because you see Navani and Dalinar like working through their problems and like communicating, and then you have an Adolin and Shallan chapter, and it's like, oh, they're taking a date to a winery. That's cool. And then it's just awkward dialogue in between them where they're both like inner monologuing, and it's just I don't know. It's I guess it's also at the same time it's him. That's how a young relationship is. You don't have your communication skills.
It's true. That's true. It's
Like,
valid.
so it's like I get it, but it's it's not it's one of those things like you afterwards you appreciate how well it's written and the ability to write something that is actually like makes you feel the cringe because you're like I did that. My first relationships were like that cringy.
yeah, we don't talk about high school relationships.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't want to relive those memories, all right?
Yeah. So
That's a good point, man. Like, you don't I don't think I've ever thought that while I was reading this, that like they're like, oh, he's just doing so well that he actually made me cringe.
it's like
Like, it's not that it's bad writing, it's just that it's poor conversation that happens.
yeah. Which I now that I think like there's like a foil there, and you almost are gonna see I almost wonder which one's if we're gonna see one deteriorate first now. See Navani and Dalinar either fall apart, or we're gonna see Adolin and Shallan fall apart
Oh,
to show which.
please.
Well, that's just because you want Shallan and Kaladin to be.
Yeah.
No,
They were boning.
Leshwi. Okay.
True. Also true. That's why he put Leshwi in there, so that I would stop thinking about Kaladin's boner in the chasms. Well, he's pressed up against Shallan in the rain.
That would not cause.
That's just because it's the first woman he'd seen in like 6 months. Okay, he was kind of down bad, you know.
I know, my boy. Let him get some. Yeah, I feel like too with the mystery thing is that like in book 3 and 4 is where it gets long-winded. In book 2, where she's figuring out like the map of the Shattered Plains and how to get to your urethra, that's like a very cool mystery she's solving. But oh, I'm sorry, you're a Theru. But like
Sorry, I just made that mistake. Freudian slip.
Because I just can't find the location of
urethra.
The greatest mystery.
It's so small. But book 3 and 4, it's like, okay, I need to show more how capable Shallan is through her struggle. And like, that's cool. I get it. Awesome that she overcomes. But like, can we have a little less of it? I don't know. I feel like I get enough. Yeah.
Well, I think in book 4, I didn't mind it so much because I could see the and I don't know if this is a part of DID, but her paranoia is reaching a peak in book 4.
Yeah.
She doesn't trust Adolin. She doesn't trust Pattern. She doesn't trust anybody. You know, she thinks literally everyone is betraying her at any given point. And she just, whether it's, you know, it's all the trauma that we've gotten to see from her past, the revelation of, you know, all of the stuff about her brothers, her brother being part of that she idolized, being part of the Ghost Bloods, and she's learning about the Ghost Bloods, and she can't trust them. She doesn't know who she can trust. She doesn't trust herself, obviously. She doesn't trust herself so much she's making fragmented personalities of herself to protect herself from herself.
You're making me love Shallan right now. You're making me love her.
You know, that's what I'm trying to do. Anyhow, I gotta protect my Adolin's girl here, okay? But yeah, it is. I could understand why both the sort of cringy relationship stuff, young relationship stuff, and the frustration with and I know John and I have talked before even about Kaladin and how annoying this sort of cyclical, every book we seem to solve is, you know, he's given new lease on life only to fall back into a depressive state.
Almost kill Syl every time.
Well,
every time.
But to see that over and over again, you know, it can be a little bit exhausting. But at the same, that's sort of the reality of mental illness sometimes.
Yes.
Is, you know.
Yes.
It doesn't know. It's not always it's not rational.
It's exhaustive.
Like,
and if they solved it, yeah, I wouldn't believe it. So that's the thing too, is that like, yeah, like he really sticks to the characters and what they're struggling with, and he's not just like, it isn't just an arc. So it's like, you know, yeah, I would rather have it this way, and it's not really something that happens too often in epic fantasy that I've read. I'm sure that it does, but that out of the things that I've read, except in like Wheel of Time, where we have 14 books of watching someone go mad, and then, you know, no spoilers. And then what?
We can't spoil every fantasy series in one video, okay?
and then how that
One at a
all
time.
plays out. Yeah. So like, but I feel like he takes that theme of like Rand going mad, and he like does it with all of his characters here, and like he really sticks to it, and that's just really good. Yeah, that's good writing. So you changed my mind about Shallan, both of you. So that all of that conversation already covered favorite thing about least favorite character for me.
Well, and just so I'll cover Moash real fast because I think both of you had picked Shallan as your least favorite character.
Yeah.
We've kind of talked a lot about the redeeming qualities of Shallan as a character. For Moash, the redeeming quality for me, at least, certainly the reason I love to hate him is he is a sort of dark parallel of Kaladin. Kaladin has every single reason that Moash has to become as hateful and terrible of a person as Moash. In fact, in some ways, you could actually argue Kaladin has even better reasons than Moash to hate Light Eyes and hate humans and hate everybody. But the choices that Kaladin makes versus the choices that Moash makes, in some ways spurred on by Syl, really helps us to. He serves as this dark mirror for Kaladin in a way that, because Kaladin is my favorite character, I really actually love about Moash. Which is why, obviously, we're so terrified that Moash is getting a redemption arc because I don't think you can have the dark mirror and the person looking in the mirror at the same time. If you're going to redeem the guy in the mirror, then even from like a thematic or philosophical level, you have to kill the person looking in the mirror. And so if you're going to have a Moash redemption arc, does Kaladin survive the Moash redemption arc? Probably not. And that's what's so terrifying about the possibility of a Moash redemption arc for me.
Well, yeah, because Frodo should go down with Gollum into the
True.
lava.
Yeah.
Oh, you just spoiled that book too. What the? Come on.
Spoilers for all the Lord of the Rings.
70-year-old book? How dare you?
I haven't read it yet. Dang it. I'm only on the Two Towers.
Oh shit! I forgot.
No, you actually did.
Oh no!
That's amazing.
No, I spoiled Lord of the Rings for someone somehow.
That's right. You haven't even seen the movies, have you? Oh no!
I wanted to read it first. Well,
no point now. Might as well just binge watch them.
Yeah, no, I'll probably just not read them ever. No.
Yeah, I will never.
No point now.
Remember that video we made? Got 10 views and spoiled Lord of the Rings for me forever. All right, sorry, Richard. Fuck. All right. Thoughts on Magic System, guys? I think we covered this, but I do want to open the floor up to talk more about it. It starts with me. Thoughts on Magic System, likes, dislikes. I really like the stuff that has to do with the heralds and the Spren coming through with emotions and creation Spren. It's just a really cool fucking idea. I like the idea of the Spren being like buddies. They kind of follow you around too, and give you the gift of magic. That's a really cool idea. I don't like to know how they do it all the way. I like it to be teased, like a little bit here, a little bit there. And I don't like when we see Shadesmar all the way, you know, like I don't, I feel like there is a degree of over explanation. I really like the Night Watcher, because she still hasn't been explained. So yeah,
you like knowing there's something behind the curtain, but not seeing the man behind the curtain.
Yes.
So to speak, yeah.
Yeah, and like when I see the thing behind the curtain, I hope that it's like, you know, it has like a big payoff. But if you don't want to show me and want to leave it ambiguous, that also works for me, you know. But like if you just have something shitty behind the curtain, then, you know, I don't agree with you showing it to me. I do.
I just love the evil genie premise of that entire. Like she's just out there offering people, they're like, "Oh, come find me,"
Monkey's
and I'll.
paw bargains.
Yeah, and just every time, it's horrible for them. It is not.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess technically Dalinar's wasn't horrible for him. Like, it was arguably the best thing that could ever have happened to him. But I don't know. But the magic system, I
Well, I
think
thought it was heavily implied that it wasn't the Night Mother that at least gave
It
him
was
his deal. It
cul-
was cultivation.
yes, which is technically the mother of the Night Mother, right?
Yes.
So like he went a step above her, and even on that one, it's just an eviler genie almost. There's like,
Right.
but I just I like I may not have been a fan of Mistborn, but I like how he's connecting all the magic system. He's not explaining, at least for me, I don't understand how it's connecting yet,
Yeah.
but I'm enjoying seeing Wit running around and doing things and not really having any idea what any of that has to deal with. But just every time he's in a chapter, I'm just like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where he's
Pay
like,
attention. Yeah.
yeah. He's
Oh,
like,
how could I forget Wit for third favorite character?
I forgot Wit too. I know. I'm pissed.
Well, I don't know. Could you? I don't know. Is he the author self-insert? Can you? Is it bad to
You're
like
right.
the self-insert character?
We couldn't include him. That's why.
Yeah. He's not from this
Contractually
universe.
obliged.
He's not Stormlight, so it doesn't count.
True. I guess it's fair. Actually, very fair. Yeah.
I like that he used it was copper, right? Where he used in that one town to hide them using their abilities. Like he like told them to build a copper dome. And I know that's from Mistborn.
Well, we're learning with Navani that the different metals interact differently with the different magic systems, which I like because every time he adds, like, oh, hey, here's another little layer of the magic system that you don't know about, it's always being used because you're like, keep that in mind because next book, we're going to do some crazy stuff with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is true. And, like he doesn't include anything, and these books are fucking huge, and he doesn't include anything that he doesn't end up using at some point.
Right.
So it's like there's so many little things that are like getting promised and then paid off throughout the book. It is and I think that's why like with Rhythm of War, I just reread this like a couple months ago, and like this part, take it or leave it to a degree. And then this part, it's just like all of these tiny little setups were just getting paid off. And so it's like I like on a subconscious level, I feel like it was like carrying me through because all of these different things were connecting in my mind.
Well, I know we're not talking about Mistborn, but in some ways that was Mistborn for me. It was like all of this, philosophy, theology talk, like roll the eyes. Oh, yes, Brandon Sanderson knows big words. Ooh, cool. And then it all pays off in the end. You're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he does have this tendency. He's like, oh, you can't forget anything because it all pays off in the end. And even going back for rereads, you're reading stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even make that connection before.
Shalon having the blade at the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
It literally tells you in the first book that she had one.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You told me that.
And it's literally, and it's like within like her first 3 chapters. And it's like, don't even correlate it the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Until it like the big reveal happens and you're like, how did I not know? And then you're like, oh, well, he already told me. I don't know. I don't
known all along.
I should have known.
If only I didn't have all of this other stuff to also think about at the same time.
Yeah. That's the thing, motherfuckers. Like I'm just starting this fantasy series called The Prince of Nothing by R. Scott Baker. You guys heard of it?
Nope.
I don't think so.
It's like Malazan to a degree, where it's in Dune, where it's like a lot of shit's thrown at you, but like it's not as dense and hard to get into as Malazan. And I've just been like, I was listening to it today, and I was like, this is how Stormlight started too. Like no wonder you didn't know what the blade was, because
Yep.
because you're like learning what heralds are and what like you don't even learn about Stormlight really. Well, I guess you do with like
The money.
the light and the
Yeah,
money and
the
stuff,
money lights up the money, or the light goes into the money, and then
which is
there's
cool.
that guy at the beginning of the book that's the assassin,
Yeah.
and he can use the light to do things.
Yeah, he's sucking
How
the
does
light
that
out.
all work?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all really fun.
And so like, yeah, I just like because when I'm thinking about Stormlight, I know like it's all like in my head, like all of these words and stuff. So I'm just like today starting this new one, and I was like, oh shit, okay, you gotta remember these words. And so like, yeah, all
learn a
that.
new vocabulary for another magic system. Oh god.
Why do I keep doing this to myself? Yeah. Well, all right. Let's see here. Did you guys have anything else to say on magic system, likes, dislikes?
No, I think we've covered it very well.
Yeah.
World, Spren, Shadesmar. Caleb, you're up.
I know this is a question later, but I think the world building in this is easily one of the best. Just from as someone that grew up playing and absolutely loving the Elder Scrolls Morrowind because of its alien environment, because it's just like being transported to another world. The promise of fantasy that it's not just set in like medieval England again, it feels really good to have such an alien world and to see the way that cultures are being built in this alien world and how they're similar and dissimilar to us in very interesting ways. I think it's one of the things about fantasy that is so underutilized. It's much more seen in sci-fi than fantasy. And fantasy could really use, a good dose of now let's really make our world alien and see what that does for our characters.
Now, is
Yeah.
is Morrowind set? That's not in a medieval England type.
Morrowind
Setting.
was very alien with like fungal forests and all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So,
Yeah. I like the world, like that this idea of a storm coming from the opposite way is
Yes.
so destructive. Like they've never ever thought about that ever. About maybe making roofs also have another side. They're just
Yeah.
like, oh no, it just comes this way every time. It's fine. And then as soon as it goes the other way, everything gets destroyed.
that's what's so terrifying about it. You're like, oh my, you just broke a fundamental rule of this world that
that's like it.
We've been able to take for granted our entire lives. It's like,
It's like if someone just turned gravity off for us. Something we just take every day. Or like the sun didn't rise one day. Just, oh, okay. That's not good.
Yeah.
We didn't build a wall for this.
Yeah.
But again, it only happens at the end of book 2, which is really, in a way, really nice because we get time. And this is another thing that Brandon does really well. He lets you kind of stew in a thing for a bit. And I think, again, things he might have learned from Robert Jordan. Robert Jordan does this very, very well. He never throws too much at you at once. He's always like, we're really taking an entire book to explain, this little piece. We take the entirety of book 1 in Wheel of Time just to explain how you connect to the magic, not even like using the magic. We're just telling you how you access the magical power inside of yourself. So I think Brandon does a really good job with that in his world building as well, where he's like, okay, we're gonna let you have this whole first book to really just sit in this world. We're not going to break any of the rules of the world. We're just going to let you exist in the world for like a book and a half before we really start doing crazy things. And that gives us time to get used to that world because it's so alien. So it's new and exciting when you're in book 1, but we're not breaking in the rules in a way that makes the whole world building feel arbitrary. we're giving time for those rules to really be established in our minds um, before we start breaking them.
And then by like book 4, he starts to explain why it broke. Like he gave you a whole nother bit, and then you have Navani figuring out, and the what's her name? She's the evil scientist one.
Ancient one.
Yeah, like she's the evil scientist lady that
Oh, she's such a great character. Yeah.
yeah,
Rabonial. It's Rabonial.
yeah. And she's like, and she's also doing her experiments, and then they end up working together and they figure out whatever ends up happening. And then
Well, they figure out that
yeah,
sound and resonance actually impacts the magic system as well, not just metal. So it's just another layer added on.
yeah.
Well, and it explains why, from the very beginning of the series, why the Parshendi sing. The Parshendi are all about these singing and these melodies in their head, and we finally get to see, have this payoff that, oh, actually, music is an intrinsic part of the magic system in a way that we've, never been able to, that we haven't figured out before, because we've only seen things essentially from the human perspective or from the Parshendi perspective, but never the two of them working together.
And it makes me so I was rereading book 1, and the one thing that Dalinar says like repeatedly every time he thinks of that night is the drums of the Parshendi. And how they just, that is a staple in his mind of that night, is that their music had an energy to it that, if you really thought about it, was a precursor to the night's events.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So
you're getting to see all the foreshadowing right now. That's cool.
Yeah, like you can see, like even back then, he really was like, he hinted at it, and it makes me wonder what exactly they were playing. I know Sanderson might ever explain it. I don't know if there was a reasoning behind what they were playing at the time, but
well,
yeah,
I assume it's to their rhythms, which are the rhythms of essentially the world in a way.
well,
They're connected at a fundamental level to the world in a way that humans, because humans are from another planet, humans are connected. And so to have the humans have a window into that, into that world is profound even for for humans. So
But
I
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
so I did want to talk about how Sanderson writes in the sprint into the series.
Yeah.
How he doesn't do it. He has somebody afterwards come along.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, there should be a spren here. Or hey, like, and I feel like that is a really interesting way to put this large mechanic in your magic system into your book. Like you're writing all of your plot and everything, and you have that fleshed out, and then you add in the heavy parts of it. But at the same time, they can't be that heavy because they're not like huge deciding factors besides the immediate. I don't know. Like, there's just multiple instances where the foreshadowing has to deal with where the spren were in the book and how there's little spren popping up in different areas that shouldn't be there. And knowing that that wasn't how he originally wrote it, that was written after he had sort of the big plot stuff figured out, it's interesting to me that that's how he wrote with his magic and his magical characters.
Well, Brandon talks a lot about and one of the reasons why his stories are so good is the promise and the payoff, how everything needs to be carefully foreshadowed. And again, I don't know if he learned this from Robert Jordan, but I say this as well, going back and rereading The Wheel of Time, where you can see all of the promises being made. If you get a little bit of like the behind the curtains, you see how the sausage is made, so to speak. You can see the promises being told to the audience, even if the audience isn't picking them up consciously. Just our intrinsic biases as people will mean that there are promises being made to us, and how the author chooses to either subvert or fulfill those promises is just a really fascinating part of why Brandon Sanderson's books are so good.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, even with, the promise with those drums you were talking about, Richard, at the, at the when the Parshendi came to sign a treaty, right? But then they killed Gavilar,
I think they
hired the
already,
assassin.
yeah, which ended
Yeah,
up being them not hiring, right? It was Turavangian that did it.
yeah. Right, right.
Well, they assassinate Galavar because Galavar wants to bring in the Voidbringers.
Yeah, bring back their
Yeah,
god.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
And
Galavar's quest for power is just insatiable, you know.
and somebody has convinced them that they need to do this. Do you know who that was?
Well, I think the problem is, and I think this is part, we haven't talked about Venli yet, but this is like the
Ugh.
tragedy of Venli is that they
Second
go to.
least favorite character.
I know someone else was gonna say Moash. I was gonna take Venli, but um, we'll talk about it. I'm sure I see other questions that she's gonna pertain to, but
Okay.
it's the interesting part about Venli. They kill Galavar and have this, existential war with humans that's going to wipe out their species, and then she ends up doing the exact thing that they killed him to prevent in order to save her species. It's like the horrid, like
Yeah, yeah.
the bargain that's being made. And of course
Fucking
we get
crazy.
to in book 4 we get to see that she's being manipulated almost all along by the real void bringers,
By her little spren.
by the fused, yeah.
The little spren that talks like it's like he's from fucking New York or something. He's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the promise with the drums, and then this book is called Rhythm of War, and then he's actually going into the rhythms. That's really fucking cool. And which they're so good on a reread. There's so much to pick up. I don't know, Caleb, you haven't reread any of them, right?
I have started the series again, so I just picked up
Oh,
the
you
books
have.
recently. So I had given away my copy of Way of Kings to somebody else, and so I had to pick up another one. And going back and rereading, it's easy to forget that every single book begins with a retelling of the night of Galavar's assassination.
Yeah, so cool.
And we'll talk about that again in the next question, but to have that kind of be our framing device for the beginning of every book is something really neat to go back and see and be like, oh yeah, this is really where the heart of this story begins. That
Yeah.
night is the beginning of all of the events that unfold in some way, shape, or form.
I think one last thing I wanted to say about this, just for me, if you guys have more to say. I mean, this is a very world-based book, so this question could go on forever. But it's definitely one of my favorite worlds. This is probably my favorite alien race that I've read. I really, really love that they have these different rhythms that they hum to. In the audiobooks and the graphic audio versions of the book, they actually there's a certain like cadence that the narrators take on, which is really cool, that he writes it in such a way that you do feel that they're going, oh, she was humming to the rhythm of the lost. And it's like, even that word lost, like I can yeah, it's a kind of a dirge. And that they have carapace, and this is like a very ocean based place with a lot of crustaceans everywhere. And just really cool. I really like the Parshendi. I don't like Parshendi point of views.
I'm the opposite. I think they're awesome. I love every time I get to get a glimpse into that culture and see that world. Because I mean, we know.
I agree. I just don't like their personalities.
See, I think that
the people.
I like Venli. I think that she is a very cool character. Every time we get to see her enter, I'm just like, okay, now I get to learn some cool stuff about this question I've had in my mind. Like
Oh shit.
she's the
Well, in
question
book four,
answerer.
yeah, book
Like,
four, the flashback character being a Shonai, who's already dead. You know,
mm-hmm.
she dies in book two, and we go back and experience in book four her backstory, and it's tied in a way to her sister, who's now like evil, who killed her essentially. You know, it to have that be, you know, all of that be explored in book four in a way. And again, I know we're going to talk about it. I know I'm going to talk about it later, but uh, it's such a cool part of the world and the setting.
All right. Well, let's see. Predictions for book 5. Richard, you're first.
So the only thing I know about book 5, and are you guys fine with me saying it's a little bit about the prologue and who's
Sure,
going to
go.
be talking about it, like who the person is that's going to be the prologue this time around. He's already spoiled it. I don't know if you guys know it.
I do know who. I listened to the prologue when he released it like
Mm.
a year ago. So
So
you're fine for me, but Caleb would be the one to
I
ask.
didn't, but I don't care. So
it's Gavilar, right? It's going to be Gavilar's point of view of that night,
interesting.
which
Well,
that's going to be the thing that answers the most questions. It's going to be we get to see him talking to those random people that had interest in his stone. We get to see his thought processes of how he felt that night was going to go. If he knew that an assassination attempt could possibly happen that night. Like, I think that it's going to give us a lot of answers and then way more questions than we ever originally were asking about the night.
well, it's interesting you say that because Zeth is our character that we're going to explore the backstory of in book 5.
Forgot how cool Zeth is.
And
Good.
But we've already had his point of view. He's the original point of view character in the Way of Kings. And so I thinking about this question, like who's going to be the one that we explore? And now that it's Galavar, it's like maybe I should go look up that prologue and read it. And now I want to know the answers. Oh no! Oh, yeah. But go ahead and finish your thoughts about book 5.
I just think I feel like my biggest prediction is it's either going to be Kaladin or Dalinar that dies. I think that's my biggest prediction of what's going to happen in the book. In one way, we're going to have to see one of the Spren move on without their person they're binded to, I think that's like one of the big things we haven't seen. We haven't seen that moving on. Like we've kind of seen it from Syl, from losing her other person that she was bonded to, but we haven't really seen the aftermath actually play out. Right?
Now, Syl is unique though in the way that she handles, because it seems to be that the other Spren don't actually feel as rough as she does. Because I mean, she had someone die, I think, before the honor died. And she's just been a wind Spren ever since, dealing with that trauma, which I think is probably, of all of our characters, I think hers is the trauma that we're probably going to dive into in book 5, if we are going to dive into her trauma.
Maybe she's what's holding back the 5th oath for Kaladin. It's not a him problem at that point. Maybe he's like gotten to that point, and then it's she has had something, so she can't process that side of the oath.
Well, that would make sense because in this book, she finally like got right. She asked somebody to give her depression, but do you remember? Like she's like
she's
so she can relate.
She's in a way hinting. I think in book 4 we start getting hints that because we're getting to see Kaladin and he's got all this PTSD and depression and all of this stuff, and we're getting hints. We get her point of view, I think, for the first time, which might be the first Spren point of view, period, unless we had Pattern as well, even earlier. And to see that she definitely has something going on, because she's using this almost DID style, because we're getting to see it in Shallan. She's using this like childlike demeanor as a way. Anytime she starts getting, the dark thoughts start bubbling up, she runs away into this sort of childlike, I'm just a windspren. I don't want to think about any of this anymore. And so I think she's got some stuff to unpack there. And I think there might be some really cool stuff between her and Kaladin, where they allow their processing of all of this stuff maybe is ultimately what heals Kaladin in a way. Because they obviously both have stuff that they've just got to unpack. They can't keep it. They can't keep dealing with it themselves anymore. It's gonna suck if he dies. Just saying, Brandon. Don't kill my boy.
Please.
Please don't. I can't take it emotionally.
Caleb, what's your wait, no, it's me. It's me, bro. Okay. Next. Kaladin dies. I don't think that he does. I think when I picture the end, I picture Kaladin becoming an ardent, like the guy, and
yeah,
is it an Zael? I picture Kaladin becoming like that guy, and like learning how to like kind of incorporate what he's learned from war into like daily life as like a kind of almost spiritual, in a spiritual way, like Zael kind of seems like that, like where he does it, he's an ardent, but he like still moves a certain way, and he teaches people how to use the sword. So I picture Kaladin something like that happening. Maybe Syl dies, or Syl becomes part or helps Dalinar in some way. Dalinar might die. Moash might kill him.
Oh, dude.
Somebody's gonna kill Moash, I think, just to like stack up that like, oh, you're about to come. Nope.
I hope it's Rock, dude.
Yeah, Rock will crush head of airsick Lowlander. Yeah. And I don't know what's going to go down with Taravangian. I think he's probably going to prolong this. I don't know how you can prolong it. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. So yeah, that's all I got. It's on you, Rubel.
Yeah, I think Taravangian is the biggest like question mark, because we just don't know what he's going to do.
Renarin. Yeah, I forgot about Renarin.
Well, yeah, and Renarin being Taravangian's one, gap. We do know who the characters that we're going to explore, the flashback characters are. We do know them all the way up through book 10, which is cool. Which I might talk about in the next question. But for this book, I think obviously what I want is Kaladin and Seth buddy copping their way through Shinovar. I think we might get maybe a third of the book being that. We probably do have to go back to Shinovar. Certainly if Kazeth is our flashback character, we probably are going to do that, because we're going to be learning about the Shinovar culture both through the flashbacks and through their interactions with it in sort of the present timeline. I think Dalinar probably fully becomes Honor in this book, whether that means he dies or not. The way that Brandon has, at least the phrasing that I saw on Reddit, that a fan favorite character is going to die, not necessarily a major character, I think probably means it's probably going to be someone like Lopen or Rock. kind of like a Teft dying. Teft would be
Ugh.
easily rank as a fan favorite character, but not necessarily a main character. I think if it's Rock, we're probably going to see Rock's daughter play a much bigger role in the series going forward. She's already, or his daughters are starting to kind of step forward as characters. I know they feature in the novella quite a bit, even though I haven't read the novella. Um, so I think that might be the route that goes. I think if there's a Moash redemption arc, I think Kaladin has to die for it. I don't think Moash kills Kaladin. I think something else kills Kaladin, and Kaladin's
Ah.
death is what is the trigger for the redemption of Moash. Because again, the Dark Mirror, um, the personality, the good reflection dies, and so the bad reflection becomes the good reflection. Oh, I have to become what he always, knew I could become, kind of thing, perhaps. Otherwise, if there is no Moash redemption arc, I think Kaladin kills him, and it's Kaladin finally making peace with, because really Moash is his greatest failure. He's forgiven himself, I think, for everybody else dying. If you think back to book 4, he forgives himself for his brother's death because he gets the vision that shows him that it was his brother's choice. His brother,
Yeah.
it wasn't just a helpless, he wasn't just a victim of circumstance that he made his choice. I think there's going to be a similar revelation with Moash, where Kaladin kind of has to realize that Moash made the choices that he made. It wasn't Kaladin failing Moash that made Moash into who he is. And I think Kaladin will kill him if there's no Moash redemption arc. But as for how the series, how book 5 ends, God knows. If you told me book 4 was going to be,
I know.
Die Hard plus something else, I wouldn't
Die
have bought it.
Hard.
Die Hard plus, some courtroom drama, I wouldn't have believed you, but that's what it was, and I loved it. So whatever it's going to be, I'm really excited for it, and we'll just have to kind of wait and see.
I forgot to say Kaladin lest we bone in the next book. I mean,
True.
You got to give Kaladin some Parshendi stuff
So
before he dies.
maybe, yeah. Fair.
I mean, and Kaladin's been our eyes into the the soul,
into the fused, into the parchment,
into the and he'll probably also be the eyes into the Parshindi's gem. I wonder if it's like a diamond, Parshindi vaginas. What do you think? Do you think they're like diamonds, like filled with diamonds on the inside, or
I hope
vagina
not.
hearts?
I don't want to know.
Any predictions for anyway?
So I did want to ask you guys a question.
Sure.
Yeah.
About your predictions for this book. So, with each book having been named off of an in-universe book, what do you think Wind and Truth is going to be? Do you think that book is going to be like something from one of the past Radiant groups? Or do you think it's going to be something that Kaladin is basically going to have to write?
Well,
I mean, maybe you already know. I don't know.
Well, I was just going to say, we know the title of the in-world book is Knights of Wind and Truth. Wind is obviously Kaladin's Knights Radiant Order. Truth is Zeth's Knight Radiant Order. So Knights of Wind and Truth might be an in-world book about God knows. But the fact that the two of them are buddy copping, they're together on some quest to Shinovar, probably does mean that together they're going to do something pretty special, which I am excited for. So,
Guys, we fucking forgot Knights. I forgot the Knights. The whole thing, they got to tell us about the Recreants. And so since they have to tell us about the Recreants, you're right. They've got to fucking kill Syl because they've got to realize something about why the Knights Radiant did that. And this is the epic in battle And
We
so
found
like
out. No. We found out in the last book why the Knights Radiant did it. It wasn't
why?
the Knights.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Knights Radiant that did it. It was the Spren.
Mm-hmm.
They chose it.
The Spren. No, because the Spren have been on this endless cycle of watching humans die or Parshendi die as they constantly bond. And so they've been watching mortals make this endless sacrifice, and there's been no buy-in from the Spren side of that pact. They've been watching humans endlessly die, but there's been no consequences for them. And so they choose to essentially die in really as their side of that bargain. But
That's a
because
stupid reason.
well, because it's in a way an honor to the they've been watching
Right.
humans die continuously to
Okay.
hold back the evil of the Voidbringers and to see that Spren are going to have, which is all thrown out now because now we know that Spren can die. We've created the tools to kill Spren now.
Right.
Teft's Spren is dead. She dies with Teft.
Oh yeah, and then at the end of this book, there's that fucked up epilogue or whatever where
Yeah,
that guy, the Herald, yeah, he's
Yeah.
bringing them like from Shadesmar in their actual form.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh god.
yeah.
Forgot about that.
Well, and we know, I know we're going
Maya.
to talk about predictions for the rest of the series. We're told that the next 5 books, the first 5 books are really about the Knights Radiant, and then the second half of the series is going to really be about the Heralds, and we're going to drill in on them. So there's all kinds of things to potentially unpack there.
Yeah, that'll be cool. That'll be really cool. I have no idea. I have no predictions for book 10 or for the end of this. I don't. Do you guys have anything? I don't even know why I wrote this fucking question.
Well, we know we do have who the flashback characters are going to be. It's Lift for book 6. Of course, all of these are subject to change. Then Jasna, then Taln, then Renarin, then Ash. So
The
we get
Herald.
2 heralds,
Okay.
Renarin, Jasna, and Lift. So that could be, and there's a somewhere between a 10 and 15-year time gap between book 5 and 6. So we're still going to have our characters around, maybe not Dalinar and Navani. I don't know. They're supposed to be in their 50s, I guess. Maybe they're still around as very elderly people, but we're going to have our sort of our current young people are going to be sort of the middle-aged people for the next book, and the kids that we see kind of in the background of this story are going to be probably much more in the hero position, shall we say.
I mean, that's cool though. Those are all every one of those names I have questions about. Like I don't love Lift, but I definitely am curious about her dynamic with the Night Watcher / cultivation, and how that works. But that's just because I'm interested in cultivation. I'm not interested in Lift as a character or her past or anything about her really.
Well,
But
and it could be because we have a 10 to 15-year time gap. Her backstory could even be the backstory of that 10-year time gap.
yeah,
So
right.
throughout the course of that book, we could be saying, well, this is the world now, and we're going to do flashbacks of what happens in between the
True.
5 and 6. So
The
we
past
don't
15
really
years.
know. That could be, that's the tool that he uses to kind of update us on what's going on while also diving straight into, you don't have to know that to get into the story and realize the stakes that are right now.
With those characters, it almost would be really cool if Odium wins in book 5.
Yeah,
Because it makes
yeah,
all of those
worry.
characters
Yeah.
that's
way more like you need to know. You need to look into their past. If Odium
I want
wins.
that. God, now I want that, Richard.
Like,
Well, and it's possible that Tarvangrian finds a way to not only to let Odium win, but let Odium win in a way that doesn't destroy the world.
I need to put a disclaimer up that the only person who hasn't listened to the audiobooks in this chat is Caleb. So he says Taravangrian.
I will absolutely murder the pronunciation. That's why I've been desperately avoiding pronouncing any character names whatsoever. I will murder the names of your favorite character, and I will not apologize.
That is it's the only one that you've said that I'm Taravangrian, and I'm like,
that's why I'm terrified. I'm terrified you're gonna invite us to talk about Malazan next, and I'm gonna have to pronounce all of those names.
I'm just gonna put up a sign with it spelled out, and I'm just
yep. We're gonna do it. We're doing Guards of the Moon next, boys. That's right. We're gonna remember all of it too.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. No, I really want that to happen now, because like I have honestly been a little bit like worried about the last 5 books, which I shouldn't be, because every time I read one of the Stormlight books, it ends up being fucking awesome. Right. So like it's good. He's gonna do it. He's gonna release dopamine in my brain through his words. But I just am like, I've been worried about it. But like, if Odium wins, and then we're dealing with this like post-apocalyptic world with those characters, that's fucking cool. Yeah.
Well, even if it's not apocalyptic, we're in a world where the fused are brought into fully into Rorschach. And so you have fused, you have the Parshendi, and you have humans that all have to live in the same world now. And you have this full, complete sort of environment to exist. And potentially with Spren being pulled by that crazy herald into our reality, you can start dealing with, goodness knows if Shadesmar gets pulled into, Rorschach. So
that was metal as fuck.
That could be insane.
Yeah. It was the same feeling.
It is Kaladin Sill shippers way up. That's all I'm going to say. Their stocks going sky high after that moment. Just saying. And that's all I will say about that. Okay.
I do feel like Renarin's character.
Wait, no. Kaladin Sill, like them having set. You mean Kaladin and Sill being together?
Yes.
This is the theory.
Those people, they exist. I promise you, they exist.
Well, another one exists now. So
there you go.
Thank you both.
There you go. I've saved. Now Leshwi can die. It's okay.
Richard, I'm so sorry.
Oh no, I'm just sitting. Now you have me really concerned.
That they're gonna drag her into the physical body.
Because that adds a whole.
Then they're gonna love each
really
other.
Big issue.
Yeah, what's that vagina gonna look like?
No, like, dude, I don't even want to know about Shallan and Pattern. That's. I don't. Yeah.
Shallan develops a personality that's into Pattern in the way that Vale was into Kaladin. Yeah. That's
no
possible.
Mating.
No mating. Well, yeah.
That's because he's jealous, dude.
Cock blocking.
I don't have a physical body.
I can't do it here. Neither can you. Oh, horrible.
All right. Let's see. When did you cry? This starts with Caleb.
I cried twice in the entire series, both in Rhythm of War, which is, I think, why it's my number one. Had the most sort of emotional impact. One snuck up on me. I didn't expect it. The first was Kaladin taking the fourth oath. That was the culmination of 4 books of Kaladin suffering, him forgiving himself for his brother, and all of the other people that he's lost. I'm going back now, just starting to reread, The Way of Kings, and he's given up saving people because everyone he tries to save is dead. And that's at the start of book 1.
Yeah.
And so to have that that emotional payoff that we've had really for 4 entire books, that he's got to forgive himself for other people dying. He cannot save everybody, and he has to accept it. Um, that was just such an emotional release, a 4-book long emotional release. And then the other one that caught me off guard is Venli's mom being cured of her Alzheimer's by her bonding a spren. That was, and I get it. Looking, I've thought a lot about it because I was like, I hate Venli. Why am I happy? Why am I crying? Why is this an emotional payoff? And part of it is because it's a payoff for Ashona as well. And we not only got to see her in earlier books, but she was our flashback character. And so, you would think, oh, we already had Ashonai's payoff in the scene with the Stormfather. I was merciful once before, and him showing her the world because that's all she wanted to do was explore the world. And then so it's so much fun now, to go back and see, oh, that's why there's such an emotional moment there. And not only that, but an emotional moment knowing that now the Parshendi have a way out that's not diffused. They have a way out of this predicament of identity that's not their enslavement to these beings that just want to take them over and destroy their minds on doing so. It's a glimpse at a possible future that, all of these people can coexist in a way, except the fused. I don't know how we get there, but maybe we'll find a way.
Richard?
So I think I'm gonna probably take yours, John. But when Tef dies,
no!
I just seeing him finally start to take those steps forward. It's like we got to see Kaladin's payoff, but as soon as Tef's his payoff of his weight he's carried through these entire series, you see him fall to someone that he used to trust and respect. And I don't know. It really bothered me. You don't get to see him actually become the person he is as the reader. You don't get to see the real payoff actually happen. You just get to see him basically at the top of the stairs about to take his final step, and just he gets shoved down them. And it's just, I don't know, it wreaked havoc with me to see that happen to him. Yeah. I mean, that, and it's almost in the same boat with, what is his name?
Elhokar.
Elhokar. Yeah, literally.
He's about to get.
Yeah, you see him as he's about to better himself, and it fails. And not for his lack of trying at the end, but because of how long it took him.
Moash!
Well,
Twice.
Yeah, Moash twice.
Yeah, it's
yes, I am a subscribed to r/fuck Moash. How could you tell?
Yeah, that's definitely for me. Just being a drug addict, like having that experience, because that's very. I know that he goes and he or he gets people to read these books that have actually struggled with these things. So I'm sure he talked to a drug addict, but it caught me off guard. I'd forgotten about that in Rhythm of War. But that is such a real thing that when you stop using drugs, whatever they are, when I did, every time I would end up using again. And so you have this terror inside you, for most of the time, because you're like, okay, I'm quitting. And you're like, all right, that's it. And then the next day you're like, but what if I just did it once? And then you do it. And then you're like, Okay, that lasted a year, and I stole all this money, and I ruined my life, and everybody hates me, and my parents and families kicked me out. All this
Yeah.
shit, and I've just hurt people. And so it's like when you go back to using, just like Teft with the Fire Moss, like he's forsaking, Bridge 4, his responsibilities, and they come and they get him, and that's like really sweet. It's really sweet to watch that. But like, um, just for him to like struggle with that, where he's like, he'll like take these steps and like, all right, and I'm good now, but then he still feels that terror. Like it's so immersive for me to watch him go through that. Uh and then finally, to me, I feel like he did get that last step up the stairs because he got the freedom that, like, that's how I feel now, like with 7 years clean, where I'm like, no, it's cool because if you relapse, John, you know what to do. You just come right back to meetings and you tell everybody, and you just keep doing what you're doing, keep doing the things. And so like it's yeah, I teared up when he had that realization. Um and then oddly enough with Raboniel and her daughter, you know what I'm talking about? So
Yeah, yeah.
Rabonil and Navani are the two that are figuring out the scientific shit that's boring but cool, kind of.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's just this like crazy fused in the corner that Navani doesn't know. She's just like babbling to herself. And then Rabonil's like, yeah, that's my daughter. And then she has to kill her or something, like to end her
Well,
suffering.
she does. Yeah,
That's what it
Yeah.
is. Yeah,
that's what
that
it is. She kills her because she's trying to find a way
Insane.
to stop the
oh,
endless cycle of pain and suffering that they're trapped in. She
because
wants an
she's
end.
crazy. Yeah,
Well,
her daughter is insane, has to keep coming back suffering that way.
yeah,
And so yeah, when you find out that part, that's why she wants the void light, I think it is, mixed with
yeah.
that can actually stop the
That
cycle.
can kill us fused. Yeah,
Yeah. Like
fully end the rebirth cycle. Yeah,
yeah, so
or
that
sending
moment,
them
and
back to hell basically. But
yeah, damnation.
yeah,
It's another planet,
yeah. It's another
right?
planet, but yes,
Right next to them.
it's the planet the humans are from. Yeah, I think.
Great.
Yeah, because Kaladin visits there. I think in one of the someone takes him on a journey there, and he finds Wit there for some reason. I don't remember. I think it's in book 3.
Hmm.
Plays his flute.
Well, he tells him a story.
Yeah.
That's in book 4. That was the other one for me. That was when
Oh yeah, that's
he
that's right.
told
It
him
is
the
in book
story
4.
about the dragon and the dog,
Mm-hmm.
because like I feel that so much, like where the with like trying to be something more, but then you like forget that what you have, like with your kids, your family, whoever it is, your loved ones. You're like, no, I want to be a dragon. And your family's like, bro, you're a dog, and that's way better than a dragon. That was my other teary-eyed moment.
Well, before we leave all of the subject, the thing about Taft, it's such a bittersweet like ending to Taft,
Yeah.
and it works so well. And I think that I think I agree more with John that he does get up that final step, because I think his very last words to Moash are, "The difference between you and me is I'll die loved, and you won't."
Oh,
And it's just
yeah.
like,
Fuck you,
oh,
Moash.
it's like so good because I hate Moash, but it's also such a good moment for Taft. It's that realization that he's like, it doesn't matter if I go back to the Fire Moss because I'll be loved either way, and I have people that care about me. I have this friend that cares about me, and I've got all of these people that care about me, and they aren't going to let me just become the worst version of myself that I could become. And it's this really great moment of him kind of, even though it's his kind of final moments, accepting that, yeah, I am going to be okay, and no one's going to stop me from being okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We're an hour and 48 minutes in.
into your hour-long video that you wanted to make.
I knew this was gonna happen,
True.
and
You
I
informed
love
me.
it. I love it. I love it so much because I was like, man, if I get to make a video with these guys, the way that we just go off when we talk about Stormlight, like it's gonna be fucking 2 or 3 hours, and that's fine. I'm gonna post it. We'll get maybe 10 views, whatever. We're gonna spoil Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings,
For the rings.
the prologue for book 5.
We might spoil book 6 just for fun.
Yeah, we've got it leaked.
Hate to tell you guys, Odium wins. That wasn't just John thinking about it. He knows.
And Terravangrian gets angrier. All right. When did you? I'm skipping this one, guys.
When did you laugh? Yeah.
The only one I have is no mating with pattern. We'll just make it quick. Let's make this one quick.
I don't remember, as I guess I'm not the first one to start this, but I don't remember in the way that I remember the cries. They're not as, the laughs aren't as they aren't the result of, you know, all this emotional tension being released in the way that the cries are, you know. So
Yeah.
I just don't have, I've thought a lot about it, and I'm like, I don't remember any of like the really good jokes. They might be in there. I might have laughed out loud a lot, but I don't remember any specific instance of it.
You got any, Rich?
I mean, I really enjoy Lift every time she's in a scene. It's just, you know, something outrageous is she's gonna be slippery. She's gonna do something, and you just know every time. And so I don't know. I feel like that is the closest I would get to like moments that make me laugh every time.
She's always talking shit to her friend too.
Yeah, she's always like, "Oh, stupid." He's just like, "What do you mean?"
It's like, I'm just trying to help.
Yeah.
She's like, "Slippy time," and then just goes skating off, and it's just like, "Oh, okay, that's Lift." Yeah.
All right. Thoughts on Sanderson's writing style prose? Does it get you in or take you out of the book? J.K. Rowling. Okay. Sorry. Just that's the order. Okay. John first. So here's the thing. We talk about Malazan, you know. That's one of my favorite book series, and but that is my only complaint at times, is that like with Stormlight, it's very focused. The plot is very focused. So like my mind, it just okay, and I'm in, you know, and like I could ride the groove. I can see everything. A lot of these images, like with a book like Malazan, where it's, you could say maybe it's better writing. Yeah, you know, that's hard to say, but it's more poetic. It leans more on the literary side of things. It it takes like a reread for me of that kind of prose for me to really get these epic images. And with Stormlight, it's on the first read. I remember these moments, and I have very clear, like, cinematic visual of them. So while sometimes it's like difficult because it'll be like, my main example is Kaladin. Kaladin will be like, he survived again because he always did. You know, like shit like that drives me up a wall sometimes. It does take me out of the book. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, you don't have to say, of course he survived. He survives every time, and how sad is that? Like, I don't need that. I know from what you've showed me with the character, and you did a really good job. You did a great job. Don't fucking say this. And so that's my main complaint. It does take me out sometimes. I feel like some things are over explained. But I think overall, as far as a reading experience, in the moment of reading, and it's more enjoyable for me to have something that's simple like this, to get me into a world, to get me to love things, and yeah, grease the wheels. So the next one on this one is Caleb.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna describe it as two extremes. Both
Sure.
of these people are fantastic. On one hand, you have Brandon Sanderson, and on the other, you have Tolkien. And Rich, you might be able to, because you're reading Tolkien now, you might be able to kind of get this. Tolkien is what you read if you absolutely love language and you want to see all the things that language can do. You go and read Tolkien. If you want to go see all the things that storytelling and stories can do, you go read Sanderson. They're two people. They're focused on very, very different things. Sanderson, the language is just a tool to tell the story. For Tolkien, the story is a tool to explore the language. And I think those are kind of the two extremes. And where an author will fall is kind of a measure between those two extremes. Maybe it's because I'm just a working class dummy, but I really do like Sanderson, and I think it's because I really like storytelling.
Yeah.
People will talk about how Tolkien, it doesn't make sense from a storytelling perspective, his books. It's like, yeah, you have like 17 endings. Like, pick one. But why does the Hobbit, the main antagonist dies off screen to a guy we met once? Like, that
What the
doesn't make any
fuck?
sense. But I spoiled the Hobbit for you too.
Spoiled the Hobbit.
You should have read the Hobbit
For
first.
Richard. I'm gonna tag this video spoiling Tolkien for Richard.
Everything. But yeah, that's a lot of people complain. Tolkien isn't writing to tell the best possible story, the best possible structured story, where Sanderson really cares. You can go watch his lectures online. He really cares about telling the best possible story. He's not so much caught up in making sure the language that he's using is the most flowery and pretty. He doesn't care about that. He cares about telling the story. So I think both of those are great reads, and they're great reads for entirely different reasons. One is because Sanderson is such a mastercraft of storytelling, and Tolkien because it's such a mastercraft language. So there's my 2 cents on the great Sanderson prose debate.
Richard.
So I think my issue is almost a summary of exactly what you guys have been saying. It's Sanderson writes his characters to make them change the world. Like, they are what moves the world at all times. If you're getting the POV, that's what's going to shape the world. There's not other things happening outside of what's you're being told. You're going to be told everything that's happening. Like, I mean, we haven't had anything major happen that hasn't been told by a character yet. Like, there's not just some random stuff going on in the world that isn't explained to us. Everything's been explained, it seems, besides like the random dude that was bringing back Sprint. That's the only thing I can really think of that hasn't been like explained. But again, that's because he's giving us the POV of what happened. We're not just finding out that there's a bunch of dead Spren. We're the dude we know, like, why they're there, because this dude was bringing them into the world. We don't know his reason why, but he's always, it's the over explanation, and he's using his characters to do it. It makes them feel to me that they're, I don't want to use the word one-sided, but they're not as three-dimensional as Tolkien's characters, where it's like they have a multitude of things going on in their lives, and this quest is just a piece into the multitude of other things that happen even after the story. Because I've seen a few snippets of like what other characters do, and I don't know. Sanderson's easy to listen to, but he doesn't leave you with questions and thinking about what ifs and what could happen with his series. He really formally ties bows on things and ends it. And I don't know, I like a little bit of mystery. I don't like a whole lot, but I like to have the what if question of like what is this, or what if this happened? I don't know. He I love his characters, but like his women characters, I guess is my biggest gripe. And I know that he explains this with their religion system, but it's like, oh, Navani, yeah, she's just really good at researching. She's gonna do it. You just look at her go. She doesn't really care about much else in the world, not another single hobby, but she's gonna scholar and to tell you she's not a scholar for an entire book.
You say that, but I think she had Dalinar was her original hobby. Okay, she's
I
done
that
a lot of those first two books. All right,
Dude, she was so hot in the first two books. So hot.
there's like a bunch of teenagers reading this book, getting MILF fetishism from it.
And yeah, it's like
And 33-year-olds.
And then you have, I don't know. Then you have Kaladin. His thing is depression, like in PTSD. He's always going to come back to it. You know that it's his character. That's like his thing, and he's figuring it out. But again, the figuring it out is still the PTSD and depression. That's his character. Shallan is her multiple personality disorder and art, like, and how that correlates together. She doesn't have really other facets, it seems to me. I don't Characters just have that one big thing and they just stick to it. They don't have that third dimension, I feel like. And maybe this is just me reading too into it. I don't know. I'd like to hear your guys' opinion and counter to this. If you have
I definitely feel those things. I feel like throughout this conversation, I have like had my eyes opened more, which is why I think that this is so fun. Because like that's my like resting state, Richard. What you just said it is like, fuck Kaladin, okay, depressed guy, Shallan with the mystery / dissociative identity disorder, and like I like Dalinar and Taravangian, but then I'm like, is that like maybe there's something wrong with me because I like the most fucked up, like that's what a good character is to me, is the ones that like have like real, I don't know, but I don't know. It's like Kaladin's Way of King's arc is like feels complete. And as we were saying earlier, it's like when he does relapse into the depressive states, it does feel more realistic, but it is hard to like go back through that again, because you do like our brains like are like, okay, we went through the narrative arc. Like, and so that's there. So like our brains want to tie it up with a bow, and like Sanderson does tie it up with a bow, but then he opens the box back up again, like, and I really, guys, like I did not look at it like this until we had this conversation today, where it's like, no, he really is just like not staying within the narrative arc, which is pretty cool. And I think that there's a little bit of artistry going on there, but where like, my arguments about him not being necessarily like literary, fucking such a pretentious word, literary, like are actually kind of like negated, because he's doing a very literary thing there, which is that like, you don't tie up the thing, you do go back to using the drugs, which like Tef does, and so, because that's just that's the more real thing, but they do feel as they go through it kind of like Star Trek characters a little bit. Do you guys get that? Like sometimes
it does have this tendency to feel a little episodic, because it's like, okay, we're Chapter 1, Kaladin's depressed and Shallan's, two other people now. Okay, cool. Like we're back to square one. Cool. But um I think the thing that for me that gives the characters dimension is their relationships with other people. And I think this is probably why Adolin is my second favorite character, because he connects to Kaladin in a really unique way, and he
Yes.
connects to Shallan in a really unique way. As much as we might cringe at the dialogue between Shallan and Adolin in book 4, Adolin being there for Shallan is super important for her. And I
What?
don't think she gets through that that book, and she doesn't get through that arc without him there. Um, Even in a way that Pattern can't be there for her, and I could see Rich is like dying to like, don't let me hate her.
No,
But
no, you just made me have another realization with Adolin's character, like of a possibility for the next book.
oh god,
What?
no, he's not gonna die. Don't do it to my
No,
boy.
so down no. Okay, so we're talking about how his bonds, like how he's basically the bondsmith of that friend group, of that group of younger guys, right?
Yeah.
So Dalinar dies. He takes up the bondsmith, but the bondsmith can't create a sword. Adolin doesn't need a sword. He has Maya,
It's true.
and
It's
he's going
true.
and he's rekindling a different sort of bond that has never happened before with Maya.
Yeah, he's
Zombie
reviving her in a
sword.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that almost makes me feel like it's definitely going to be
Well, so
Dalinar that
even
dies. So
either Dalinar dies or Dalinar fully becomes Honor. Because we have been teasing that ever since he got the ability to open Honor's. Is it? I can't remember the
perpendicular.
word. Perpendicular.
Yeah.
In his portal to
Listen.
Shadesmar.
No,
Either way,
listen, man. When people turn into God or they fly, I'm out every time.
Tarvandrian already did it, bud. He became
And you
Satan.
just said it
Okay.
was amazing. What do you mean?
No, listen.
We
I
already
know,
had
I
someone
know.
become Satan. We gotta have someone become Honor, and then they can, and that sets up a duel into the future for. We already had
Look,
Navani bond the tower. Did that actually happen? Am I
yeah, she
Yeah.
hallucinating
bonded
that?
the tower.
Which is cool as heck.
Yeah, it was
But
a giant dick and it came at the end, is
God,
what I picture it as. Like all the diamonds light up and then like they go up and then it comes fountains. It's a fountain of cum out the top of the
Cum color.
urethra. The
Yeah.
urethra.
Yes.
come full circle now. And cut. Okay.
Nice bow. And next episode we'll be talking about urethras again.
Again.
Yeah, okay, so let's see. Last question. What's your favorite thing about the Stormlight Archive, Caleb?
What pulled me in was the world building. What kept me there was the storytelling. Um, the the world building was just so fascinating. This is such an alien world, and to see, the people living in it and having to adapt to living in it. Humans are alien to this planet. They don't belong here, and they feel like they don't belong. What are these like squishy meat bags doing on this planet where crabs are the dominant life form? So they feel out of place, they feel weird, and it is really fun to see in a way that you could go to other great stories like Dune, for example, to see how, oh my, humans living on this desert planet where every milliliter of water is important, this kind of thing. Um, that's what pulled me in, and the storytelling kept me there. The storytelling. By now, we're in book 4. We're starting to have those crazy emotional payoffs that can get me to like break down for like 15 minutes. Just be like, "Oh my god, he forgave himself." It's like it's such a, but it's so good because we've been able to build all that time and all of that pressure, and to have a little bit of a release valve for it. You know, and God knows what he's going to do to us in book 5, because uh,
Not
I'm not
afraid to
ready.
kill characters. That's for sure.
I'm not ready.
Favorite thing about Stormlight Archive. Yeah, probably the I love the world, I mean it's a really cool world, but it's definitely the plot um really gets me. And then the endings. Um each ending, except honestly, Oathbringer, you really like the ending. I was not huge on Oathbringer's ending. Oathbringer for me was like a very I liked it, but like it was a very like character Dalinar book in my mind that's like really like the Rift. The Rift is like the ending for Oathbringer for me that I think is special, where that reveal where he kills his wife. But book four ending is good too, but it's like there's like a kind of a lot of different things going on. But it's up there. My favorite two endings are the first one, the second one. The second one where the Everstorm comes in and it's, you've got I picture it like red, like those Nintendo Final Fantasy games. I don't know. I feel like there was like across the screen, like diagonal. That's what the Everstorm is to me. It's like red.
Just
You know what I'm talking? It's like Final Fantasy VI. Like there was like it would be like to anyway. I wish I could put it on the screen or something. But yeah, it's definitely the plot. They're page turners set in an epic fantasy world, and somehow this whole, this huge book manages to read almost like a thriller. Um, for me, so yeah,
so
Richard.
yeah. I mean, I feel like this book just shines to me, especially like, well, so the precursor to this was like the most deep fantasy I'd gotten before reading Stormlight was Aragon, which going back and rereading Aragon after reading Stormlight, the characters don't hold up in comparison. So like while I'm reading Stormlight, I there's just complex characters with all these emotions that are cleverly written, and it doesn't like it annoys you, but in the same in a way of like the annoying like you need to figure out why. Like there's always a question and a leading up of why is this happening? Why are there these weird excerpts and but for some of the chapters of books, or like why are there he has very clever way, it's almost like a gambling addiction of like flashy lights, ooh keep going, ooh like he just keeps you chugging through the book even if it's a part where there's a lot of like thick stuff happening that takes a lot of explanation. there's still there's this shiny lights moments where you're like, oh, I have to keep
Are you
going.
are you are you laughing, Caleb, because he's Mormon and he's giving people gambling addictions?
No,
Okay.
I'm having because you're right.
It's just
It's like, ooh, I mean, it's the ADHD brain going to, like, ooh, there's some dopamine.
yeah,
Gotta
it's
keep
just
Yeah,
reading.
yeah.
and then the amazing payoffs that happen that it's like as you're reading it, you just imagine seeing this on the big screen and how
Yes.
amazing it would feel and look just to see that happen. And like Captain America getting Thor's hammer for the first time. I'm spoil Endgame. Sorry, I don't. But
Oh,
but like
is
that
there
moment.
anything that
Really?
won't spoil?
Just call the video spoiler warning. It's fine.
Yeah. Spoilers, everything.
It's just I don't know. It gives you this just amazing feeling in your chest at
Yeah.
those moments. It's just the buildups are something I haven't even Wheel of Time. There's few buildups in that series that have paid off and felt as good as Stormlight.
It's true. Yeah.
And it's
I
it's such a good feeling too, like because you're getting the sense of wonder of this secondary world that's so well thought out, while having at the same time this cross section of like not being able to put the book down. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, because he isn't afraid, and we talked about, Kaladin going back to the depression. It feels almost wrong from a narrative stance, which is weird for Sanderson because of how much he cares about storytelling. But it's because that's what a real person with depression is like. And
Yeah.
Kaladin becomes a real person because it's like, man, I really would like you to feel better now that book 1 is over, but you don't because you have depression. Or, I'd really.
So my
But
therapist tells me, yeah.
well, yeah. But or you'd really like. I'd like Teft not to go back to the Moss, but he's an addict. It's he's got his own demons to fight, and he feels like a real person, and that's what makes these characters so special. Is he's very, very careful of giving us the narrative payoffs, but not sacrificing the humanity of the characters to the narrative. The characters stay human throughout the story. Dalinar stays human even as we, see him throughout these book series. In Oathbringer, being revealed his own past. It's really unique for a character to experience that in real life, but to have him have to come to terms with who he is as he's seeing himself for the first time in some ways, it's really fascinating, and it's a really human story. And then now, from Oathbringer even further into Rhythm of War, hey, these bad guy aliens, yeah, they're human too, huh? You think about that? That's really cool, huh? And to get that experience now through, because we see from Eshonai's perspective and Venli's perspective, and God knows he's probably going to do it with the Fuse through Leshwi and others, that we're going to continue to see these really human characters that just are pulling us through this narrative without them losing their humanity. It's such a fun experience.
Any final thoughts? Good? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good, man. Yeah, Richard, you sacrificed Magic, the Gathering tonight for this.
Yeah. Worth it.
And me and Caleb sacrificed sleep before we have to take our children to school in the morning.
True.
I believe.
The old men having to put the kid to bed. I haven't heard him running around, although I don't know if I've kept him awake, but it's possible.
All mine are up on Steam somewhere, but yeah. We'll put them to bed soon. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was seriously so cool to be able to do this at length, instead of having to sneak it while we're on the clock. Yeah. It really is. I've really been waiting a long time to do this with you guys, actually chat off the clock. So really appreciate it and can't wait to upload it so we can get those 10 views and spoil everything for everyone.
Yeah. I'd love if we could do a Wheel of Time episode sort of thing. Because
would you like to do this again?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun, guys. Fuck.
Because I feel like I don't know. I'd like a book club. There we go.
Well, we've all read Wheel of Time, so it's like we've already got built in.
We already did the first Malazan book because you made me.
Yeah, I made you guys.
You pointed a gun at my head and made me read the book.
Yeah, let's. I think that's a great idea. So we'll schedule a time to do that. And in the meantime, everybody out there, have a great night. I hope you're doing well, and you're on the right side of whatever sadness the election is bringing to the world.
Like, subscribe, ring the bell. Yes, do all the YouTube things.
Yes, please. Yes, and good night.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye.